The Atlantic tropics are very active. That is not something I've said a lot this year. Good afternoon, I'm Mike Naso with this Wednesday afternoon tropical update on the YouTube page. Boy, do we have a lot to cover. Taking a look at the whole Atlantic, there is a very powerful Category 4 Hurricane Fiona moving due north between the Bahamas and Bermuda, forecast to strike areas of Nova Scotia and Newfoundland as a very, very powerful cyclone in just a couple of days. We have Tropical Storm Gaston here in the far northern Atlantic, headed for the Azores, getting close to hurricane strength, not expected to become one, but boy, it's getting close. We have a couple of tropical waves, one about to leave Africa that could develop, another one in the central Atlantic that could develop, and our main concern for the United States is this invest area right in here entering the Caribbean Sea. This could be a big problem down the road for the Caribbean and potentially the United States. Here's the latest as of 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Hurricane Fiona. Fiona was at 25.1 north, 71.7 west. Winds 130, that makes it a Category 4. It's been struggling to get above that all day. It's dealing with some wind shear issues. Nevertheless, 937 millibars, 130 mile an hour Cat 4. This is a big, bad hurricane. Moving north at 8. Remember, it's been slow. This is not a fast-moving hurricane, and that motion should accelerate a little bit by Thursday night and Friday, and it should move just to the west of Bermuda, but it could get close enough to where Bermuda, you are under a tropical storm warning as well as a hurricane watch, and then it will accelerate even faster Friday morning to Saturday morning very quickly, right up into areas there of Nova Scotia and potentially Newfoundland and Atlantic Canada, and it could be a hurricane or a post-hurricane, kind of losing tropical characteristics of a very strong intensity up there, maybe upwards of 100 miles an hour or so. There are the computer models, the European, this is as of 6Z, and they are clustered there anywhere from the center of Nova Scotia on over to Newfoundland. Either way, very tightly in agreement that it's going to miss Bermuda to the west, but you don't want to be on the right front quadrant, so you don't want it to get too close. But Bermuda, you're looking better as far as avoiding a direct hit. Here's the GFS ensembles as of 6Z, and they make it a very powerful hurricane moving right up there over the Gulf of St. Lawrence. So again, very, very powerful potential here up near Atlantic Canada. So all of you folks in areas like Halifax or over in Newfoundland, you need to be making preparations along the coast for a very serious cyclone. Here's the satellite imagery of Hurricane Fiona, and it looks a little disheveled. It's a very powerful, impressive hurricane, but see here how the circulation, it looks undercut. Do you see that? It's getting undercut. It's a little bit disheveled, and that's because of this wind shear. Look at here, it's got about 20 knots of wind shear cutting into it, and when you look back at that satellite, you could kind of see that. See right there? It's fighting in the face of wind shear, and that's why it's having trouble kind of getting a very circular CDO, or a central dense overcast, around the eye, and that's why it's having a little bit of trouble. But for 130 miles an hour, I would not scoff at it. It's a very, very powerful hurricane. The key messages: hurricane conditions are possible and tropical storm conditions are expected on Bermuda by late Thursday, late tomorrow. And number 2, Fiona is expected to affect portions of Atlantic Canada as a powerful hurricane-force cyclone late Friday and Saturday. It could produce significant high winds, surge, and heavy rain, and interests in those areas need to monitor the progress of Fiona, no doubt. Then we go further out, and here's Gaston. As of 3 p.m. GMT, it's Greenwich time, Gaston was at 38.3 north, 41.3 west, winds of 65. So it's a high-end tropical storm. It's forecast to strengthen maybe to 70 miles an hour, just below hurricane strength, and then weaken, but mill around out here north of the Azores, moving northeast at 16. Not expected to become a hurricane, but looking at that satellite imagery, it's trying, man. It's really trying. When they get up here in the North Atlantic, sometimes the interaction with fronts and whatnot kind of create baroclinic energy that helps the center of the storm strengthen. And so that's why even if the waters aren't as hot and tropical as down near Jamaica, let's say, it could strengthen. And we saw that with Hurricane Danielle last month. Nevertheless, it's bursting there, so it's either going to be just shy of hurricane or maybe a hurricane, and that's Gaston. So, there's Gaston on the northern North Atlantic there. There's our Category 4 Hurricane Fiona. Now, we're going to shift our focus to our Invest 98L, which is right here entering the Caribbean. And what's troubling about this satellite is you can clearly see a rotation in there. This system already has some low pressure with it. Even though it's not a surface circulation by any stretch, it is a feature we're going to have to watch. These are the computer models, and they all take it in a general westerly direction, very close to South America, then west-northwest, and then a gradual northwest turn towards areas of Jamaica, Cuba, the Cayman Islands, the Yucatan, and the Northwest Caribbean Sea. Now, when we look at it on the visible satellite, there it is, and we still have wind shear from the outflow of Hurricane Fiona, but it's bursting and it's trying to look as impressive as it can in spite of that. And as you can see from this wind shear chart, once this outflow from the back edge of the hurricane lifts away, our system here in the Caribbean is going to be in a much better environment for strengthening. There's not going to be any shear for days, and it's almost there. You can see right here is the shear line. So our system is going to burst through, and then it's going to have a good jet on the east side and a good pattern here in the upper levels for strengthening. To say nothing of the water temperatures, which only get hotter and hotter as you get here into the Western Caribbean. So this could be big, big trouble for the Caribbean and potentially the United States. Here's the European ensembles. These are the 0Z, and that track again is kind of a stair step, west, then north, then west, then north, gradually towards Cancun, Pinar del Rio, the Florida Keys, somewhere in this area of the southeastern Gulf, potentially as a serious, powerful hurricane. Here's the GFS ensembles as of 12Z, and they take it anywhere from, let's say, Charlotte Harbor, Florida, to Grand Isle, Louisiana. So that pretty much puts 4 states on alert there, to say nothing of the Yucatan and the Caymans and Cuba and Jamaica that would have to deal with it first. Here's the Canadian model, and watch what happens as Fiona moves out. This system makes it into the Gulf, and it has very little steering current, so watch it as boom, boom, boom. It's just not moving at all as ridgings to the north. It's waiting for a trough to kick it out or some kind of ridge to push it, but it kind of gets trapped there, and that's the Canadian model. And again, this would be in 198 hours, so plenty of time to watch it, but still. Now this is the GFS model as of 12Z, hits Cancun as a monster hurricane, and then makes a turn there into the Florida Panhandle as a very serious major hurricane. And there's a lot of people going, well, it's weakening in the Gulf of Mexico, maybe it's not going to be so bad. Guys, this thing could be a Category 5 over water and fall apart, but imagine the storm surge that gets built up if a major hurricane is over the Gulf. And we don't know yet where it's going to be exactly. Just the model persistence and consistency that this thing is going to slam into the Gulf Coast as a strong hurricane is very, very troubling. And again, you can see it doesn't even gain latitude until the end of this run. It makes a hook there towards, say, what is that, September 27th or so. So we still have a good 5 days before we're really going to know where it's headed, but all interests on the Gulf Coast and in the Caribbean need to watch it very carefully. 90% chance. It's a high chance. That's a pretty poor-looking system for as high a chance it is, but that's because the models are in such good agreement we're going to get something. So elsewhere in the tropics, we have a moderate risk, which is still over Africa, and another wave here in the Central Atlantic. And when we put it into motion, here's our Central Atlantic wave showing a little more life. But look at this wave over Africa. Good grief. It already has like a circulation to it. That's a higher chance than the one over water. And when we look at that even closer on the satellite, that is some deep convection. So it's going to be a race for names. The next name is Hermine, then Ian, and then Julia. And there were some people on the weather boards saying, so many bad hurricanes start with the letter I. Isidore, Iris, Ivan, Irma, Ida, Isabel, Irene, Igor. It goes on and on and on. And we thought, wouldn't it be ironic if the one we're watching very carefully becomes a big one, but it doesn't get a name until after it's in the Caribbean, and that becomes Ian, and another I-named storm. So it's all, for fun, because that's trivial at this point. The bottom line is this is probably going to be a very serious hurricane in the Northwest Caribbean, given the forecast models, and potentially down the road for the United States. So I'm Mike Naso with the latest on the tropics. Stay tuned. We're going to watch all these systems: Fiona, Gaston, our waves in the Atlantic, and of course this system entering the Caribbean over the next couple of days. I'll talk to you guys next time.